What's up, guys? How's it going? All right, so you probably have picked up on King of the Ice Field going on. There's obviously a couple events always. You got Lucky Will coming, you got Crazy Joe, and a lot of other events, right? But today's video, I thought I'd go over a couple of things that I found to be really helpful for even just like general players. And I don't know, I feel like some of this information is out there, but this is regardless of skill level. And here's a couple of things you need to know right out of the gate. If you're promoting troops, they like you get T5 units, you might be wondering, like, oh, say if I've got a batch of troops and I want to promote them, how do I do that? I'm going to go ahead and just really quickly retrain these just for fun, right? But the option is actually down here. You see in the bottom right, you've got a deployment capacity increase. You can basically increase the amount of troops you're training at a time. But if you hit the arrow with the plus, this is actually how many troops you're going to promote. You'll notice that that number is actually larger than the number that it costs you to train them. And that's because when you're promoting troops, oh, lovely. We're right in the middle of a loading icon. Oh, joy. Maybe. Sorry about that. The internet was a little cranky. Anyways, basically you would take these troops and then you'll just promote like this and hit promote all and then promote. You might notice though, if it says like 20 or 50, you might be wondering, well, why can't I promote them? Well, that's probably because you've got them out gathering. A lot of people don't realize that whenever you're actually going out and sending a gathering army, it's going to use those lowest tier troops, as it's going to go out and basically use those lowest tiers. Like you can see here, it's using all of my low tier troops. A lot of people do that and then they don't realize that that's what they've done, and then they're like, oh, and it happens all the time. I've seen people, they're like, well, I can't train them, why can't I train them? Well, you see, that's the reason. The other thing is okay, the question of, well, should I be promoting my troops or should I be training troops? To answer that question, I argue that you probably ought to get to the maximum of whatever your promotion is and then promote them. So if you have like 500 or so units and it's only going to be like 10-20 minutes, obviously it doesn't make any sense to do that when you just wait till the stack gets to 1500 and then do a full 1500 stack. Obviously you always want to have the highest possible tier of troops at all times in your army, because otherwise you fill your infirm up and it's not really going to do you any good. Now, this is another tip that comes up from time to time, but basically in the enlistment office, if you ever happen to get troops that die and they fill your infirmary completely, you'll have those troops dip into the enlistment office. The main thing you need to know is these two rules here, which is to say that it basically accrues over time, and if you've got troops that are injured in there, it's going to go slower, so you obviously don't want any wounded troops. Therefore, you probably won't be joining rallies for a little while if you're doing those auto-join rallies. And the main thing is you want to go out and do gathering. You want to do your daily missions and you want to do resource gathering. And that's basically all you need to know as far as the enlistment office is concerned. Obviously, you do have a capacity. That capacity is going to be one of those things that's kind of crucial to whenever you're going out and doing major fights, battles, whenever you're doing fortress, what have you, you're going to dip into that from time to time. It doesn't happen very often, but when it does, it sucks. Third tip is that if you're going to prioritize upgrading any building, you probably need to be prioritizing upgrading the embassy, because this is going to increase the number of ally assists and ally help time that you're going to receive, as well as reinforcement capacity. That's just kind of a need to know thing, but in general, it's just general rule of thumb. Like, that is super helpful to know, because if you upgrade that and then work on other buildings, you're basically giving yourself a boon to advantage. And that's why whenever I do my furnace upgrade, I'll get to furnace 5 and the very first thing I upgrade is my embassy immediately after. Again, this applies across the board. It's just in general a good rule of thumb. Sixth tip that I'm going to give you here is actually kind of related to, it's kind of like thinking in terms of like how you want to do events like bear, which is to say it's kind of an interesting, quit tapping the wrong thing. All right. Balance wise, I've always done 50-10-40 whenever I'm doing attacks on players and stuff like that. But if I'm going to do attack on like a bear, for example, I like to do around like 20%, and then I just go crazy high. I go 60 up here, and then I'll do another 20 here is what I'll do. I like to try and buff the amount of marksmen I have. Obviously, you could just as easily buff a little bit more lancers if you wanted to, but I'm more of the opinion that buffing marksmen and bringing your infantry down just a smidgen You may even argue that maybe instead of bringing it down to 50, you might go to like maybe 35 or something like that, and then bring this up. And you could probably do like a 30-60, right? And this would work fine too. But the idea and principle here is you want to do as much possible lethality as you can do. I've got a lot of lethality coming in from Alonzo, but if I wanted to increase, say, lethality, I'm going to need to want to focus on the things that provide it. And there's not very many options here. Obviously, you could potentially go with somebody like Natalia, for example, and you're going to get a rally lethality bonus from that. And then, you may toke and pop, like, I don't know, like for the Lancers in particular. I'm trying to remember who it was that had lethality. I think it's... Nope, it's not this one. Is it Molly? I forget. It's not... Well, that's Defender Troop lethality. It's still not what we want. That's health. That's still not what we want. Well, the third piece that I'm thinking of we don't have yet. Unless I'm missing something, but I'm almost positive we don't have it yet. So these are all Defender troops. The ones you want are the rally-based ones, because the reasoning for this is when you look at their skill, you'll see rally troop lethality by 15. That's what you're focusing on whenever you're attacking bear, because you're going to give yourself so much damage that you're doing whenever you're doing a rally. Now, I mean, personally, this combination is probably fine, in part because I'm raising the attack as well as the lethality, and you might be wondering what the difference between those two stats are, and basically attack is cutting into the defense stat, and the lethality stat is cutting into the health stat. You can't have a really low attack, but you also can't have a really low lethality. And in a way, I don't really feel like this combination's any worse than a lethality combination. Like, you could just as easily pop two 15s to get 30% rally attack with a 15% rally lethality, and you're probably still in the right. But that's the main thing whenever you're doing bear and stuff like that, is that's kind of the general rule of thumb that a lot of people seem to be following, is just by basically improving the amount of damage they're doing. Of course, there's other factors at play here. You've also got your lethality in your gear, and you've got the health that you would probably need to focus on, which that is to say you would probably want a lot of infantry health and then a lot of marksman lethality, and that's just kind of a given, right? But I mean, it's something that this guy trickles into the fourth tip, which is that you always want to work on just 3 sets for each unit type. That is to say, you want 1 set of hero gear for infantry, 1 set for range, and 1 set for lancers. Don't bother trying to do 6 sets at the same time unless you're willing to spend your way through it, because it's extremely difficult to get like a set of fully level 10 to mastery 4G level 100 set gear without spending a lot of money. It's not easy to achieve. I really don't recommend people try and have 6 full sets. There are not that many people that can afford that. That is double-digit $1,000 expensive. That said, all right, the 5th tip that I have is really kind of generic, but it all comes down to understanding how rallies work. That is to say that whenever you send a rally at somebody, the only stats that matter are basically the guy with the little flag is going to determine basically who the rally captain is. And that is to say that that rally captain's skill bonus is going to apply here. And all of your bonuses are going to matter. And the first 5 people that join your rally, their captains with the flag are going to apply their skill to the rally. Every single person after that will not matter. Now, that is not to say that if one of those first 5 people leave, then it'll be whoever next came up in line from that. So the reason why that matters is if you get like 5 people joining a rally and they're all sending Molly, for example, well, now you got 5 heroes with a stun chance, which isn't going to do you a whole lot of good. In general, you don't want that. What you're really wanting is heroes like Jesse, for example, where you're going to get a 25% damage up ability, which is effectively increasing the amount of damage you're doing. Right? 5 of those is probably still going to be better. And obviously this applies even in defense too, right? You want to be cautious of whenever you're sending rallies that you have that in mind. Now, there are some other rules regarding like defense in particular. Obviously, I was showing you the exclusives earlier, but the point being here is that when you're the captain, that is going to give you that bonus. From time to time, there's always like some questions on what applies where and when and how, and really all you need to know is that you can get a lot of this information out of the Whiteout Survival Discord. Like, it's not like you're gonna not find it. You can find these. If you have questions and don't know what I'm talking about, or this is all flying over your head, just go to the Whiteout Survival Discord, go to the guide section, there's so much information there that, frankly, I do it a disservice for the lack of information that I give it, right? But I mean, the point being is that one thing you also need to pay attention to is generation. Now, this goes into kind of the bonus tip of 6, I guess, that, if anything, the game is progressive. That is to say that every month, every day, you are going to eventually unlock more and more stuff. Heroes are progressively going to come out. You're going to have new heroes come out, and those are always going to be better than the ones previous. And they're also going to cost more as time goes on. And I say cost more in the sense that, okay, you start off and let's say you had a full max set of legendaries in the beginning. Well, now you're going to need the next set to be just as capable, and the next set to be next, and so on and so on. That's why I would argue that you really ought to spend a lot of your time, if anything, focus most of your time and energy into your gear, because that is going to live on, and your heroes not so much. And so, it's not that you won't want the advantage, but think of it more of a temporal thing. It doesn't last forever. Outside of that, if there's any other questions that you guys have regarding the game, feel free to comment in the down section below, and I will more than happy try to answer as many of you guys' questions that I can answer. And I'm going to pretty much call it a day, but thank you guys for dropping by, and I'll see you guys next time.